video, we're tackling El Filibusterismo, the sequel to No Me Tangere by the iconic Filipino hero Jose Rizal. This isn't just a story, it's a window into 19th century Philippine society. We'll be breaking down the key elements, the compelling characters, the vivid setting, the gripping plot, the powerful themes, and the narrative perspective. But we won't stop there. We also explore Rizal's background and the historical events that inspired him to write this powerful critique of colonialism. So yeah, get ready for an in-depth analysis.
Il Filibusterismo filters a diverse cast of characters, each representing a different phase of Filipino society during the Spanish colonial period. Some of the most prominent characters include Simon, the main protagonist, a wealthy and enigmatic jeweler who is actually Crisostomo Ibarra. Isagani, a young idealistic poet who represents the hopes and aspirations of the Filipino youth. Basilio, a young man, he is the student who is determined to improve his life through education, but is constantly hindered by poverty and the oppressive Spanish regime. Padre Salve, a corrupt and vindictive fire who is the main antagonist of both No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo. Kabisang Talis, a hard-working farmer who is driven desperation by the injustice of the Spanish system. Setting: El Filibusterismo is set on the Philippines during the late 19th century, specifically in Manila and the surrounding province. The novel vividly depicts the oppressive atmosphere of a Spanish colonial rule, with the corrupt official, powerful friar, impoverished Filipino population. Flute. The flute of El Filibusterismo revolves around Simon's plan to instigate a revolution against the Spanish authorities. He used his wealth and influence to manipulate the political and social landscape, fueling corruption and unrest among the Filipino people. He hopes to create a climate of choice and desperation that will lead to an uprising and ultimately liberate the Philippines from Spanish control.
Now let's explore the themes of El Filibusterismo. The first one is the revolution. The novel examines the complexities of revolution and the consequences of resorting to violence as a means of achieving change. Simon's plan highlights the dangers of seeking revenge and the potential for violence to spiral out of control. Greed. The novel exposes the pervasive greed and corruption that permeate both the Spanish colonial government and the Filipino elite. The friars are particularly depicted as corrupt and self-serving, exploiting their powerful personal gain. The point of view of El Filibusterismo is narrated from a third-person, omniscient point of view. This allows Rizal to provide insight into the thoughts and motivations of various characters, as well as to offer commentary on the social and political issues of the time. Now let's tackle the literary piece of El Filibusterismo. El Filibusterismo begins with a group of passengers on a steamship, discussing the slow pace of their journey along the Pasig River. Among them is Simon, who is traveling to Manila to carry out his plan for revolution. He is joined by Basilio and Isagani, who discuss their aspirations for education and social reform.
Let us now discuss the background of the author, which is Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Rialonda. He was born on June 19, 1861 in Calamba, Laguna, Philippines, and died on December 30, 1896. He was a Filipino nationalist, writer, and polymath who played a pivotal role in the fight for Philippine independence from Spanish colonial rule. His parents, Francisco Rizal Mercado and Teodora Alonso Realonda, were landowners who instilled in him a strong sense of patriotism and a deep understanding of the injustices faced by Filipinos under Spanish rule. Rizal's intellectual brilliance was evident from a young age, and he excelled in his studies, eventually earning a medical degree from the Universidad Central de Madrid. He became a prominent figure in the Filipino propaganda movement, advocating for political reforms and greater autonomy for the Philippines. One of the Rizal's most famous works is the novel El Filibusterismo, published in 1891. It exposed the corruption and abuses of Spanish rule, igniting a national consciousness among Filipinos and inspiring the Philippine Revolution. Peaceful approach to reform, Rizal was accused of sedition by the Spanish authorities and executed by firing squad on December 30, 1896 in Manila. His martyrdom cemented his legacy as the Philippines' national hero, and his writings continue to inspire generations of Filipinos to this day.
And lastly, we'll discuss the content and background story of El Filibusterismo and why Jose Rizal wrote it. El Filibusterismo, a sequel to No Me Tangere, played a crucial role in the Philippine fight for independence from Spain. Both novels powerfully depicted the injustices suffered under Spanish colonial rule, fueling the movement for freedom. The whole story is packed with themes of corruption, injustice, and the push for reform, and Rizal really wanted peaceful change, not a violent revolution. So, Rizal wrote El Filibusterismo to expose the awful things happening under Spanish rule. He was a huge part of the propaganda movement, using his writing to show the world how corrupt and abusive the Spanish authorities in the church were. He wanted to inspire Filipinos to fight for their rights but peacefully. It all came from Rizal's belief in equality and justice for his people. He saw the oppression firsthand, and even though he was loyal to Spain, his calls for reform were seen as a threat. Sadly, this led to his arrest and execution, but his death only made the movement for independence stronger.